What is up? How's it going, guys? Got a bit of an update video for you. Haven't done one of these since I was doing Rocket Arena updates, but there was a recent hotfix for Realm Royale Reforged. I know I'm a bit late on this. At this point, I'm probably about a week and a half or 2 weeks behind, but I got caught up with work and some stuff. But I did want to make this video because I do think these hotfixes, it's not considered a patch update, but I do think these hotfixes are interesting. I think they can help the game, and I am interested to go over them with you guys. First things first, though, hopping right into the abilities. You can see here the first thing they have on their list is the Lightfoot Potion. It decreased the pre-fire by 1/10 of a second, it increased its effect radius, and it changed its cooldown to be 1 second longer per rarity, respectively. So I would say overall, it's a little bit of a buff. The pre-fire rate going down means that you can deploy it faster or throw it faster. The increased effect radius got a huge growth, as we can see here, 27.5 to 40. We can call it units, whatever. High-res and paladins have always been weird about their measurements and units they use to measure distances in games. It's the same with paladins, but the 1 second uptick for the cooldown, I don't think it's that bad of an issue. So overall, I think the Lightfoot Potion got a buff. It is a really interesting and unique ability to run, giving you that extra jump height and a little bit of a movement speed for a few seconds. Secondly, you see the Flask of Healing. It also got the decreased pre-fire, and it got an increase in its effect radius, just like the Lightfoot Potion, from 27.5 up to 40. The Flask of Healing is a rip of one of Pip's abilities in Paladins, and the devs even left a comment on the website saying they wanted to make this ability a bit easier to hit with, and hopefully this hotfix should help with the no reg issues these abilities have. You want to make sure you double tap the ability if you want it to self-activate. So what that means is, at least the end of that, when they're talking about double tapping the ability, you hit the ability key once to throw it, but if you hit it a second time before it hits the ground, it will detonate in midair. So whether it be in midair, you want to use it on yourself. I know myself, normally when I want to guarantee that I'm going to use this Flask of Healing or the Lightfoot Potion on myself, I look straight down and just throw it to the ground at my feet just to make sure it hits me. But if you want it to hit a teammate that is not right beside you, you have the ability to throw it and then detonate it, if you will, in midair to make sure that it hits. So make sure you're using that feature of the ability, but also the increase in the radius effect, they're hoping it helps with no reg issues, so it would be dead abilities and it wouldn't work properly. So that's good to see. Moving on to the next set of abilities, the Decoy normalized move speed to 25%. If I have that correct, I think that means that the Decoy will now move when you deploy it. When this game first re-released, I guess is what we're calling it at this point, when you activated the Decoy as the assassin, the Decoy just stood still, and it would shoot if it saw someone in its line of sight up to a certain distance, but it stood still. So with this, if this does what I think it does in giving it movement speed, and letting it move in general, I think that could help make the Decoy just that, more of a decoy. It will draw more attention, because I think a lot of people would see when the Decoy was used, they would shoot at it once or twice, but once they see that it doesn't move, they're like, oh, this is a decoy. I can shoot it twice and destroy it, or I can just ignore it and just put a barrier or a wall between us, and then it's not an issue. Secondly, we have the Concussion Grenade, which is also an assassin ability, if I'm not mistaken. It got an increased cooldown, but the cooldown is only half a second per rarity. So again, it's a little bit of a nerf to the Concussion Grenade, but I don't think a half second is going to be that big a deal. It could come into play when you're in those 1v1 fights and you are trying to concussion someone into the air to snipe them. You're not going to have that ability as fast, but half a second in the grand scheme of things isn't going to change that much. Also, when you're getting your helmet armor and it's reducing the cooldowns anyway, I don't think that's going to hurt that much. The dev note for the Concussion Grenade is that the tooltip is now not going to be reflected properly. That is on a couple of these abilities, and I think that just means that the tooltip in the game for the Concussion Grenade won't show the change in the cooldown. So the tooltip is still going to be for 13 seconds for the normal or common ability, even though it's actually 13.5. So you're going to want to pay attention to these patch notes because some tooltips in game are not going to be updated to show accurate cooldowns or effect radius or anything like that. Next up, we have Grounding Shock. I don't use this ability that much, but it is increased damage across all rarities by 25. So that's a flat 25 more damage per rarity. It also decreased the cooldown across all rarities by 1 second. This is just a straight buff for this ability. It does more damage, and it has a decreased cooldown. It has the same dev note that the tooltip is not going to be reflected properly, but again, more damage and decreased cooldown, it's only going to be better. The next two we have are Enrage and Heroic Leap. I believe both of these are warrior abilities. For Enrage, there is a bug fix where the legendary Enrage is corrected to 25%. It was 30% in game, and it was only supposed to be 25%. So they fixed it, and they decreased the Enrage lifesteal from 30 to 25%. So a bug fix just to increase or make it correct, rather, where the lifesteal is now the correct amount at 25% and not 30%. The warriors are getting a slight nerf to Enrage, but we want to keep them feeling powerful. That was the dev note for Enrage. A little bit of a nerf. The people that play warrior are kind of crazy in my eyes because a lot of their kit being just a heroic leap, which is not, it doesn't cover that much distance, a sword as one of your class weapons, and then a lot of your abilities just being like shouts or fortifications and things like that, where you have to get into the face of the enemy. So you have to be a very aggressive player to play as those, so the lifesteal on their kit makes sense, but they don't want to make it too much. Speaking of Heroic Leap, the damage now starts at 150 and scales to 300 at Legendary. I don't know if that is a nerf or a buff, but Heroic Leap, the common Heroic Leap that you land with as Warrior will do 150 damage, and if you get that up to a Legendary movement ability, you will have up to 300 damage for your Leap. They decreased the damage radius from the Leap from 20 down to 16.6 repeating, so you're going to have to jump closer to your enemies, but you will be doing damage to them. Next up, we have the Throwing Axe and the Fireball. Actually, I think I got a little bit off, but next up is the Throwing Axe. We do see the Throwing Axe has a decreased hitbox slightly. You no longer should have to worry about warriors just spamming the Throwing Axe, and even if you think you're out of the way or it's not hitting you and you still taking damage, they decrease the hitbox for the Throwing Axe. Onto the Fireball, it has an increased hitbox to match the size of the Fireball. It also has the decreased pre-fire rate, so there shouldn't be a delay between when you hit the ability and then when it actually fires, or at least not as much of one. I think the problem was here, the mechanic had a smaller hitbox than what it was visually showing, so even I'm assuming there were times where the Fireball looked like it would hit or clip an enemy and they wouldn't take damage. Next up is our staffs. We have the Fire Staff, increased projectile speed by 50 and decreased the radius by 50. So I don't know yet if this is a nerf or a buff, but it now shoots faster, which I think is good. It's closer to a hit scan than a projectile. It still is a projectile, but it has a decreased radius. So it shoots faster, but you have to hit and be more accurate with your shots. So I will be interested to see how that plays in game. Keeping in line with the staffs, next up we have the Istaff, increased ammo from 6 to 7, so you will have to reload less often. You will have one extra shot in your Istaff, but it reduced the slow from 20% to 17%. So you have one extra shot, but your enemies are not going to move quite as slowly as they did from getting hit with the Istaff. Next up is the Crossbow. The reload speed has increased by 1/10 of a second. The Crossbow reloads extremely fast compared to other weapons in Realm Royale, it was increased by 1/10 of a second, so now the reload speed is 1.3, but they gave it 2 more ammo. The crossbow ammo is now 12 instead of 10. I think even with the reload speed increase, this is still a buff to the crossbow. I know a lot of hunters that run bow crossbow or slug rifle crossbow, and being able to hit one heavy shot with a bow or with a slug rifle and then switching to that crossbow and just burning people down because it shoots fast and it reloads fast, the crossbow is still going to be really, really good in this game. And our last 2 weapons here under this section is the LMG. It has improved accuracy but decreased damage. The LMG is a bit of a hit or miss. In close quarters, it can do a lot of damage because it does shoot incredibly fast. It has a lot of ammo, and it does damage like really quickly, but they decrease the weapon, they increase the accuracy. I think they're wanting to make it a little more viable in those mid-range engagements, but they did make it do less damage, so you're not able to burn people from like across mountains or anything like that. Next up, we have the Revolver. It says that they have a bug fix where accuracy is normalized across all rarities. The only thing I can think there is that certain rarities of the Revolver had better or worse accuracy, and now it should be uniform across all rarities. Those are the big things. The only other things that were mentioned in this hotfix is that one other weapon, the auto sniper, which again is another one of those hit or miss weapons. The common version of the auto sniper has been removed from your first chest. So as soon as you hit the ground and you open your first chest, you are guaranteed to not get an auto sniper. And I think that's a good thing. Even as someone that plays assassin pretty regularly, it's sometimes frustrating to drop in my first chest and get a sniper rifle. But an auto sniper doesn't do as much damage as a sniper rifle, and it was shooting too slowly. So when you drop on a chest and an enemy drops on a chest and you get an auto sniper and they get anything else, it seems like they are able to win, whether it be a pistol, an SMG, an assault rifle, a slug rifle. Whatever it may be, it seemed like you were at a disadvantage if you pulled an auto sniper first, so they took it out of the first chest. You can still get it in game, but it won't be out of your first chest on drop. Besides that, they did increase the damage for the auto sniper by 20 for each rarity, which I think is good. They also decreased the fire rate, so it shoots slightly faster and does slightly more damage. It's also not in your first chest, which I don't think is a bad thing at all. The only other thing they have in the hotfix here is regarding the Goblin, the loot Goblin that you can randomly find across the map. They made it to where it has a 12% decrease in movement speed and 15% decrease in health. The devs' comment for these changes is that players were saying that the goblins were too much of a chore to hunt down, so we lowered the speed and health to make it easier for players to get their hands on the loot. I think this is a good thing. Even when I am playing trios with 2 other people, if we find a loot goblin, I feel like it takes way too long to destroy the loot goblin. The comparison to the loot goblin being the loot llama in Fortnite, one person can take down the llama in Fortnite within a few seconds. You know, you just hit headshots and just burn it down. The loot goblin runs, it was at least, incredibly fast, and it had a ton of health. So these changes, I think, are beneficial for the player base and being able to get those golden and purple rarity items and weapons out of the goblin and be able to get it quicker. But that is the hotfix. Like I said, I just wanted to get this out to you guys. I know that it's a bit late, but I did at least want to cover it. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, leave a comment down below. I will probably continue to cover Realm Royale updates as they come out. I don't know how frequently they're going to come out. I'm going to continue playing the game and posting content on it, as well as posting a little more Rocket Arena content here and there. But I do appreciate y'all. Hope you have a good day. Hope to see y'all in the next video. Peace.